Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Let's go.
Hey folks, welcome back, as always, to Making Data Simple. I'm glad you found your way here. Today I am with Frank Kane, a founder of Sundog Software. I like the name, man. Founder of Sundog Software and Sundog Education. Here's what I know about Frank. 9 years at Amazon and IMDb. We have to tackle that in a bit. Talked about delivering product and movie recommendations, hundreds of clients. Frank is also, you tell me, Frank, but you must be technical. You got 17 issued patents in the field of distributed computing, data mining, and machine learning. And now I think this company you've started since 2012. I'm doing a terrible job of introducing you, so I will let you introduce yourself. Thank you, Frank, for joining the podcast. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Actually, you did a good job there. So I think you hit on most of the high points. Bunch of time at Amazon during their early years when they were still kind of like growing exponentially at that point. And now these days, my main gig is actually teaching people online about machine learning and big data and some of the stuff that we pioneered back at Amazon.
So how long were you at Amazon? 9 years?
Yeah, roughly 9 years, give or take a few months.
So why would you leave?
Oh, boy. Well, the honest answer is we couldn't take the weather in Seattle any longer and traffic was getting bad. But, as with any job, you kind of get like a 7-year itch after a while. So there was some of that going on as well, to be honest. So time to try something new. Figured we'd try giving self-employment a go. And fortunately, it worked out.
Well, how would you, let me back up for just a moment. How would you describe what you do?
Today? It's kind of a weird mishmash. So like you mentioned, I have two companies going on. One is in the field of visual simulation and actually simulating the sky and oceans for virtual reality training applications primarily. So that's about half of my time. And the other half is spent creating these online video courses in the fields of machine learning and data mining and big data analysis. And that's actually reached an audience of over 300,000 people now across the world. So the impact of that is pretty exciting.
Are you naturally a teacher? You obviously you must like to learn. All teachers do. But how'd you get into the essentially what I would call the education space?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it, to be honest. Was not the plan. As with most ventures, you start off thinking you're going to do one thing and end up doing something else. So when I left Amazon, I figured I'd just devote my time to this simulation software stuff, and that would be how I'd pay the bills, right? But while spinning that up, I started doing some freelance gigs on the side, and one of them was doing curriculum development for an e-learning company in New York City. And basically that spun into another e-learning platform giving me a call saying, hey, you should try doing this, put out a course on Hadoop. So I did, and it actually took off. And, as that began to grow and grow more and more and more, I figured, well, maybe I should double down on this and actually focus more of my effort on online education. So, it turned out that people like listening to me and I had some knowledge to offer, and it kind of worked out, surprisingly.
This is all the education you're referring to is sundog-education.com, where you can get this information and register for a course?
Yeah, you can hit up my own website there at sundog-education.com, but I'm on all the big major e-learning platforms out there. There's a bunch of them out there. The one that actually connected us is Manning Publications. So if you head over to manning.com and go to their live video link there, you'll see my face plastered all over that too.
Nice. I presume these are all, I see you out here. This is very nice.
Thank you.
With your hat on, you got, what's that hat called?
I think it goes by the name of a flat cap, but it's.
Yeah, there you go. You got the flat cap. So I presume these are all for fee.
Yes. Yeah. We have like free lectures that you can like try before you buy, but the courses themselves are paid.
Yeah. So we got all around machine learning, data science, deep learning, Python.
Yeah. Recommender systems and, Hadoop, the whole Hadoop ecosystem, Cloudera, all that good stuff.
Are you on Coursera as well?
I am not. That is one platform I'm not on.
It's one platform you're not on. So you got to go to one of those. What other platforms are you on so folks can find you?
In addition to Manning, you can find me on Udemy, Pact Publishing, and Stack Social. Oh, there's a bunch of other ones. Lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning. And I'm sure I'm missing a few, but those are the big ones.
So, but you also said you were at IMDb?
Yeah,
Is that?
IMDb is actually a subsidiary of Amazon, so it was sort of
Oh,
an internal transfer, if you will. But my last couple of years, they were actually running the technology team for IMDb.com, which was a lot of fun.
so when you're doing the reason I thought of the movie recommendations IMDb, so I just cut the cord, and now I am right now. I mean, I'm playing around trying to find the best like scenario,
Mm.
but or what app I'm going to use. I've been playing around with Google TV, but the other day you can search through all the apps now, which is kind of cool. And I was searching for a movie, and it brings up IMDb. And now the movie is free, but I do have to watch commercials like intermittent in that movie, which wasn't that bad. I got to watch the movie that I wanted, so it
Mm.
was a fair trade. At least I thought.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of expanding beyond their original vision of just providing information about movies. So,
Yeah.
historically, IMDb was a place you went to see what else was this actor in, or who is that actor in that movie, right? And that's still its main thing. But I think they're kind of like, I hate to use the word synergy, but, taking advantage of their studio in Los Angeles with Amazon.com and maybe leveraging some of Amazon's streaming and video streaming efforts to have their own offering under the IMDb brand these days.
Yeah, I was just surprised when when I think of IMDb, I think exactly as you describe, finding information, and I did the search, and all of a sudden, hey, you can play this movie with IMDb, but you're going to watch some commercials. I don't know. It sounds like that's the new space that they're getting into. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably leveraging, to your point, the relationship with Amazon.
Yeah, and it's kind of a different angle on it. It's free TV. It's kind of like broadcast TV streamed on the Interschnitzel, so it's
Yeah.
kind of a unique idea.
So is that where you? But going back to the movie element of this, I know that you were managing some of the technology around delivering product movie. Is that where you got into machine learning of it initially?
Yeah, yeah. So when they hired me at Amazon, it was actually into their personalization team, and that was the guys that make people who bought also bought and recommended for you, and all the systems on Amazon that try to predict the next thing that you want to buy and put that in front of your face, right? So
Hmm.
I had the privilege of working on some of the early versions of that technology. And, we didn't even call it data science or machine learning back then. It was just, algorithms that software engineers like messed with. So, but yeah, that's where it all started. And that was kind of the focus of my career at Amazon for the most part.
Does that not bother you? It bothers me a little bit. Let me tell you. Let me tell
Oh,
you why.
yeah, there's a
Because I
whole.
use Amazon, and I'm like, yeah, they're doing a pretty damn good job right now of go in there and then it makes recommendations that are in your liking or similar to what you've brought before, and I'm like, damn Amazon, and they're making it too easy also to just buy, because the buy with one click is just way too easy. So you just got to stay out of Amazon. But then you got a little bit of Big Brother going on, do you not?
Yeah, there are definitely ethical concerns. I mean, our intent was always just to make life easier for people, right? Like to let you find the things that are relevant to your unique niche interests more easily and sort of express your individual tastes and preferences. But yeah, it kind of morphed into something else over the years, right? I mean, not just within Amazon, but that personalization technology that tries to understand individual preferences. Those initial ideas are what, sort of became advertising tracking, and what Facebook is doing to you and everything else that's tracking you across the internet and trying to target ads at you, trying to figure out what social media posts you want to look at. It's really created these filter bubbles, right, of where people just get locked into this bubble of their own interests and don't really see the world outside of that.
Well, that's another derivative I haven't even thought of. My issue is the ethical issues. And look, I think it's going to be the challenge of our time. A lot of people, as I've said before in this podcast, are more worried about like the Terminator taking over just because of how movies portray AI.
Yeah.
That's not my concern. Anybody that's, well, this is my point of view, I guess, but anybody that's educated at all, they look at it and they say, look, the bigger concern I have is the ethics around data, stealing data, etc. And look, I'm not even faulting Amazon, Facebook, other companies like that in some sense, in that I think just naturally, I mean, even if you're trying to do the right thing, but the more data you have, the better decisions you can make. I just think they naturally are going to be, heading in that area, because the pressure is going to be so much to, we got to find new ways to get data.
Mm-hmm.
There's also going to be situations where people like pay for your data. In other words, like, here's your phone bill, it's $100. Oh, by the way, if you give us your data, we'll only charge 50.
Yeah.
Most millennials are going to take that deal. So I mean, it's like God. But then they're taking all the personal information. It's like unavoidable. It's like I'll give you one more example. That kind of I was at the dinner last night, and a gentleman said, "Oh, I'm never going to do the 23andMe thing with the because he didn't want to give up his DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody to have my DNA." And I said, "Yeah, but you just got through telling me one of your kids did that. So I think they got your DNA, man."
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like that ship has sailed, and I don't know, like Pandora's box and all that stuff. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I just installed uBlock Origin and Privacy Badger on my browser for all those reasons, because it's starting to creep me out. When I see these really hyper-targeted ads, I'm like, this is starting to feel uncomfortable.
But that's a good point, Frank. So you've been in the hornet's nest, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, what the what's going on there. What do you recommend in terms of you say you installed some software to help prevent that?
Yeah, actually, I stumbled across a write-up in the New York Times. They actually had a really good series about protecting your online privacy, and a couple of their recommendations was, in addition to the usual stuff like installing a password manager and all that stuff, a couple of specific Chrome extensions. One is called uBlock Origin, which actually blocks the ads themselves, and another one called Privacy Badger. I think that's actually made by the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And its job is just to sort of learn what things are tracking you in your own individual browser and block those over time.
That's it. How long have you used it? I mean, is it?
I've been with them for a couple of months now, and I have not turned them off yet. So it's been a positive experience.
Well, but has it been eye-opening, or is this just, or you haven't studied enough yet, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just looking at this website that I'm on right now, talking to you, like it's blocking 14 different things right now. So, it's pretty shocking what's out there.
Say that, man.
Yeah.
Now, what have you done? I'm talking to our producer, Liam. See, what have you done? Now I'm being tracked on my own podcast. Wow.
But that's nothing. Like, you'd be amazed at stuff that tracks you out there. And it's all being like pooled together and like, across different websites and different properties. That's where it gets really creepy.
Do you agree with me then? I mean, this is like the challenge, at least I don't know if it's of our time. That's a big statement, but I certainly think it's the challenge of the day. I mean, do you feel the same way, given you've been like coding some of these algorithms?
Well, I would say today, like, it's not something to be super scared about, because having been in the hornet's nest, like you said, the people that are building these systems generally have good intentions, at least. They're just trying to make more money for their company. They're not trying to like profile you and like, send the government knocking on your door to cart you away because of your political views or something like that, right? It's all very innocent in their eyes, at least. But of course, the potential is there for bad things to be done with this data, right? And that's still worrisome.
Yeah, but what's the quote? Something based on good intentions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was actually a big thing within Amazon itself. I mean, Jeff Bezos always said that good intentions are useless. It's mechanisms and, processes that count. Like, what you want to happen doesn't matter at all.
Because that's the thing. That's what scares me most, right? I'm not doubting you. That's why I kind of give that qualifying statement. I think, I'm sure 99.9%, let's say 100%, is all good intentions. The only issue is that, it's still, you're trying, like you said, trying to make money, trying to get more data, trying to do it on the up and up.
Yeah.
Still doesn't change the fact that we're gathering all this data, and pretty soon, it gets a little eerie. And you even said yourself, it feels, and you've downloaded two of the preventions yourself. So it's not, I don't know. It's like we got to educate people to take precaution.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you do end up with mixed feelings about it when you use these blockers, right? Because, you'll go to websites that the only way they can make money is through online advertising. And maybe they're promoting something that you actually care about, and you're depriving them of money by blocking the ads on their site. So it's not always a clear ethical call as to what the right thing is to do when it comes to blocking ads.
But you are still using it.
I am. Yeah. On the whole, that's the decision I've made. Because like you said, good intentions, it's not always. I mean, this is why I spend a lot of time in my classes talking about ethics, because it's very easy as an engineer to just say, this is my job. I'm totally focused and devoted to what my boss is telling me to do. I'm going to do it as best as I can, using whatever means necessary. And unless you step back and ask yourself, how could this thing that I'm building be used in ways that I never intended, for things that I might not like? You have to remember that technologists are hard to find, the good ones at least, and you can say no. You can push back. And I think it's very encouraging that we're seeing, people within Google or within Facebook starting to do this, pushing back against their management and saying, hey, I'm not sure this is really an ethical thing to be building. This could be abused somehow.
Well, that's an interesting progression that I've taken. Being on the AI side is first I'm learning machine learning, then I'm learning deep learning, or not in that order, but then I just continue learning Python. Now I'm spending a lot of my time on that ethics piece,
Mm-hmm.
which is an area that I never envisioned to get into. That's why in a couple of my podcasts previously, we've talked about how the humanities are coming back in fierce force around the concerns, cautions, interest in AI, whatever. You say you do teach that in your class as well?
Yeah, there's a whole 15-minute segment in my machine learning course on just the ethics of it all, and how to make sure you're not building something evil inadvertently.
Can you give us? I don't want to give away your class, but can you give us 2 minutes of just your thoughts there that kind of actually should encourage people to take that class?
Thoughts specifically on the ethics part of it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one small piece of it. Most of it's about, teaching the actual algorithms behind deep learning and reinforcement learning and machine learning and all that stuff. But the ethics.
I mean, is it a lecture? You just saying, hey, keep ethics in the forefront of your programming of machine learning. All right, now let's go. Or do you actually give some practice or prescription of, look, if you really want to keep ethics at the forefront, here's what I encourage you to do?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it is one lecture, but it's a lengthy one and a very heartfelt one, where it's kind of like, gather around the fire while Uncle Frank tells you some war stories. So, I talk about the story of, how we developed this personalization technology at Amazon, and it morphed into this thing that sort of took over the internet over time. Like, I don't feel directly responsible for it or anything like that, but I don't feel good about it. It had a positive effect, but it kind of blossomed into this thing that ate the world. And the moral of that story is just think about how your technology could be used in ways that you did not originally intend it for, right? Like, we never thought about creating filter bubbles when we first developed this technology. It just happened. And maybe if we paid more attention to that starting to happen, we could have reined that in before it was too late.
Yeah, but that goes back to where we started with. I think it's just naturally going to happen. If you didn't do it, somebody else would.
Oh, yeah, that's why I don't feel terribly guilty about it, because I know if it wasn't me, it would have been someone else. There's a clear financial incentive to build these systems, and it's going to happen. But
yeah, you can't help it. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it depends. I mean, we are seeing more and more engineers pushing back on things that can clearly be abused, right? I mean, if someone tells me, what's an example, facial recognition systems being deployed to police stations and things like that. There's obviously the potential for that to go sideways, right? I mean, it's intended to be a good thing, but it could be abused. So, we're seeing more and more engineers pushing back against developing these sorts of things, even though their company is pressuring them to do it for the financial gain. And I think that's great. But that's what I try to convey in that lecture in my course. You have some power as an engineer because you are a scarce commodity in this market. It is extremely hard to replace really good engineers, and you can push back and get away with it. So, make your feelings known, make your voice known to your management. You don't really have a whole lot to lose by doing so.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you. I just think that the forces are so strong. I mean, even if you look at a macro scale, I mean, look at China right now. They're probably the largest AI investment. The government obviously being a driving force. They want to be the global center of innovation by 2030, as stated by their government directly. And speaking of the visual recognition, by 2021, they're going to have 626 million cameras.
Wow.
In place in 2021, and for a lot of people out there, including myself, you'd say, "Oh, that scares the hell out of me." But on the other hand, if you depends on, this goes back to the ethics debate at a worldwide level. You could say, "Hey, look, they could be safer. They have more information than they've ever had before to help make decisions, make driving conditions safer." It could go on and on, right? That would be their argument. I struggle with the personal, what I want to say, the privacy piece of it.
Yeah, I mean,
look, totally. That's the dilemma, right?
I mean, I had a sort of a personal moment with that not too long ago. A friend of mine posted a picture on Facebook that's saying, I saw this guy on the subway. He looks like someone famous, but I can't place who it is. Does anyone know who it is? So I took that picture and I fed it into Amazon's facial recognition system called Recognition, and it came right back with a result. This is the actor's name. It's some guy I never heard of, but this guy, my friend, had heard of him. It's like, oh yeah, that's who it is. I'm like, this poor guy is just like standing on a subway, minding his own business, and I'm like identifying him like from the other side of the planet here, and that just feels a little bit creepy,
Oh man, yeah, I know. I don't know. Look, like I said earlier, I think you're doing right by teaching in your class, but I'm not sure how to stop the momentum. That's going to be the challenge.
Well, I mean, what else can you do? I mean, the alternative is to take a fatalistic attitude and just let it happen. And,
Yeah. And I'm not doing that. Don't get me wrong. I think AI is going to better the world in immense ways, but it's going to do so in augmented intelligence. But all I'm suggesting is we need to watch out for the ethics. Forget the Terminator thing.
Oh yeah, we're nowhere near that.
So you're a man after my own heart. Electrical engineering, same as me, but you also made the conversion, same as me, to computer science. Talk to me a little bit about how that happened for you.
Well, it sounds like you have a similar story. Yeah, I mean, like I went to school in the late 80s, early 90s for electrical engineering because my counselor told me that you can make a lot of money doing that. And
that's usually how it starts.
Yeah. And then I graduated and nobody would give me a job. So anyway, fortunately, back then, computer science degrees were kind of a new thing. And they taught a lot of computer science and computer engineering as part of the electrical engineering field. So an electrical engineering degree could still get your foot in the door for computer jobs. Initially, what I did was actually went out to work for Sierra Online, which was a game company in California. If you're of a certain age, you might remember games like King's Quest and Police Quest and SWAT and Leisure Suit Larry and all that stuff. So that was my first real job out of college.
That's what you. Oh wait, hold on. Are you telling me you coded Leisure Suit Larry?
I'm not proud. Leisure Suit Larry 7 for the Mac specifically is one thing that I worked on. Yes.
That is the funniest. I do know Leisure Suit Larry, and I guarantee you our producer right now is Googling that because he probably has no freaking idea. He's a bit younger than both of us, but that is funny.
Yeah,
I think it was pretty successful, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was hugely successful for obvious reasons. It was lewd. But the funny thing is that the same guy that created those Leisure Suit Larry games, his name was Al Lowe, he actually produced a really great children's game called Torrens Passage. And that was actually one of the favorite games that I worked on. Complete polar opposite of Leisure Suit Larry. Weirdest thing.
Well, that's probably why he did it, right? He felt guilty.
I try to atone for its sins, perhaps. Yeah, fun fact, Torrens Passage, which is like this like totally G-rated kids thing, uses the exact same engine as Leisure Suit Larry.
Really? That's it. That is interesting. Are they still around?
Oh gosh, they've been bought and sold a million times. So I mean, someone still owns the IP, but I don't think they're really actively producing anything anymore.
So you started in really the gaming industry.
Yeah, after Sierra, I went to work for Looking Glass Studios, which was another game company in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and worked on a flight simulator there called Flight Unlimited. And after that, I moved to Florida and started working in the military visualization, training, and simulation space.
Well, the good news is, then you get into more, I don't know what I say, more professional. They're all professional stuff, but I mean, more like high tech for the government and to proceed, with that. Yeah. Anyway, that sounds pretty cool too. So talk to me about Sundog Software. So you've got you started in gaming, you go to Amazon, IMDb. Man, this is pretty cool stuff. I think you've got a much more exciting road than mine. Mine's similar, but it's not I never did gaming, so to speak. But then you created Sundog Software. What was the motivation, and what was the motivation? What got you started? It sounds like in most companies, you started with one idea, you've taken a pivot, or at least you've branched in different areas. Tell us how that's went.
Yeah, I mean, Sundog Software is actually that rare thing that's lasted for like 15 years now. So there's not been much pivoting on that one. The story behind that is when Amazon hired me, they got me from a training and simulation company here in Orlando, Florida. And what I was doing there was building basically 3D engines for, military training. So when I went to work for Amazon, I left all of that behind. But there were still some fascinating unsolved problems there that were still eating at me, right? So when Amazon put me into a managerial position about a year later, I started to get this itch, I'm a manager now. I need to still write code or I'm going to like lose my edge, right? So I just started hacking on this on the side, basically at home. It was the sort of thing where it had absolutely no competition with Amazon, so it was completely clean from a non-compete standpoint. But I just started like putting together this simulation software that simulated the sky and clouds and weather effects, and no one had really done this before in a really good way. So it started off as kind of a side hobby. And when it actually started working, I said, well, maybe I can make some money off of this. So I threw it out on the internet and, put a for sale sign on it, and people actually started paying for it. And it kind of grew into what it is still to this day.
So are they essentially OEM in it? In other words, are they pulling it into their software? Is that how they use it, or is it?
Yeah, it's basically software libraries that does low level, 3D rendering using OpenGL or DirectX, and people link that into their own simulator applications.
Nice. And do you still you're still working on that as well, or have you branched into more other simulations, or where I know you've done the education, so I know you've done some branching off, but are you still doing similar
I am,
simulations?
yeah. It's still doing pretty well. I've handed off a lot of that work to other contractors, so I can focus more on the education side because there's only one of me. But yeah, I'm still writing code for the simulation stuff. Our newest product is actually called Triton 3D Oceans. So it does a 3D simulation of oceans and all the waves and ship wakes and things like that. So for people doing maritime training and naval training, it's found a niche there as well.
You still code every day?
Not every day. I'd say most days.
Well, that's pretty good though. I mean, good for you for it. I mean, we've got a tendency across the whole industry. You turn in good programmers into managers, and you're right. They you end up not coding. So I always say anybody that's making that transition, you either better be one hell of a leader, or else your marketability is going to decrease substantially. Because you're very marketable. Obviously, if you're coding, you got that kind of skill. I mean, it's a trade. You go to leadership, you better be that influencer that you think you can be, or else you've just cut your marketability
Yeah, I mean,
significantly.
you don't want to take it too far either, though. Like I've seen sort of a failure pattern of new managers that were plucked out of the technical field is that they just continue to focus on coding and the technical stuff, and they
Oh,
they
I
fail
agree.
to focus on the interpersonal issues that they have to deal with as a manager. So there has to be a balance. You need to still be technical enough that your staff will respect you as one of their own, but you can't focus on it to the exclusion of dealing with the larger organizational issues that you're there to solve.
Yeah, I agree with you. Back to the education. So I think you've recently celebrated your 300,000th student on Udemy.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's like more than the population of the city I live in.
So they must be, I mean, very popular. What courses have you seen the biggest enrollment in? And can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, up until now, the most popular course has actually been my Ultimate Hands-On Hadoop course, which just teaches, the Hadoop ecosystem and Apache Spark and things like that. But recently, the field of certification preparation has really taken off for me. So uh, the most popular class right now is actually a prep course for the Amazon Web Services Certified Machine Learning exam. And it seems there's just sort of this insatiable appetite for certifications these days.
So is that what you're essentially doing with a lot of your classes? I mean, all of them are now have certifications then, I would imagine, because that's the attraction at the end of the day.
Well, we've seen that courses that do offer preparation for a tangible certification that you can put on your LinkedIn page are the ones that do the best. So, yeah, that is kind of the pivot right now. I have kind of mixed feelings about certifications in all honesty, but they are important for a lot of people. So if I can help them get them, all the better.
I have mixed feelings about them as well, because I mean it's
Yeah.
like anybody can get through some of those certifications, and it's kind of like you're motivated as an educator to at least you want people to take your classes. You can't make them too difficult. So I don't know. Sometimes obviously they're worth something because people are doing it. They're attracted to it, but sometimes I'm questioning what they're actually worth. I mean, tell me, what do you think they're worth?
Well, I've kind of come around to them lately. So back when I was a hiring manager at Amazon, like if I saw a certification on your resume, it probably did more harm than good, to be honest. Because I thought, well, why are you wasting your time like studying for a test instead of building stuff and building up your experience and accomplishments, right? Um, but in the course of making these courses, I've had to go out and get those certifications myself so I can teach them. And these are not easy tests. I mean, I got to say, I have a lot more respect for people who pass these things than I used to. Uh, so I'll give them that. And the other thing too is different cultures, different countries value these certifications more so than others. So
Yeah, that's
we see
probably
a
a good
huge
point.
demand in India, for example, for these courses because a certification really means something there, it seems.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that is one way to bridge different cultures, languages, etc. And you're right, it probably has more meaning in some areas. Fantastic. Look, thank you very much. Where can people find out more about what where would you have them go? How do they know what you're working on? Where would you like them to get more information?
Well, I'll explicitly give a plug to Manning.com because they introduced us. So if you head over there and go to their live video tab, you'll find some of my offerings there. And if you want more about me, go to sundog-education.com and you'll find all my stuff there in one place.
So more education from you. That's what we can expect in the future.
Absolutely. I'm not stopping anytime soon.
Great. All right. So look, before we go, I want to play a little game with you. It's called underrated or overrated.
All right.
All right. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. All right. Underrated or overrated? You got to fall on one side of the fence, though. You can't cop out.
All right. Fair enough.
Amazon.
Ooh. Ooh.
I
Uh,
told,
underrated.
underrated. All right.
Underrated. Yes. I think they get a lot of bad press that is not deserved. But anyway.
I think they're well-meaning one way or another. It's just one of those things that yeah, I don't know. I'm with you.
Yeah.
MATLAB.
Overrated.
One statement on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't really see it being used a whole lot in the field these days. It seems like Python and Jupyter notebooks are what people are using now, and MATLAB, I just don't see a whole lot of it.
Virtual reality.
It has so much potential, but I'm going to go with overrated. I've got a Vive Pro here at home, or Vive Pro, however you say it. I really didn't know what the pronunciation was on that. Really fun
Yeah.
stuff, but it just has this critical mass problem where there's not enough adoption to make it financially viable to develop really, really great games for it. And it's got this like horrible chicken and egg thing going on right now.
But don't you think? I mean, you're right. It's like always the technology of the future, and the future never seems to get here. But man, I can envision me sitting on the 50-yard line at the Super Bowl in some like VR thing where it's just fantastic. I mean, you don't think we're going to get there soon?
Oh yeah, we could totally do that right now, I think. The technology is pretty awesome. So there's three barriers, I think. One is just cost, obviously. These things still are not cheap. So you're not going to get a whole lot of adoption just for that reason. Two is, the lack of software. The current selection is still pretty minimal. And three is just that it's still kind of clunky. You have to like turn on your computer, figure out how to start up Steam VR or whatever you're using, work out all the technical kinks of that, strap this thing to your head, fish around for the hand controllers that are somewhere that you can't see because you have this thing strapped to your head now, and get it all aligned and stand in the right place. And just it's just not something that's easy to do today, right? And I think that's actually the main reason why I don't use it on a daily basis. It's just a pain in the butt to get it set up.
Yeah, but I guess that's just it, Frank. I'm with you. I get it, but I would have thought the technology would have been far more advanced by now.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, you could say that about a lot of things, right? I mean, even AI, for
Yeah.
example, like we predicted that we'd have, full self-driving cars by now, and we don't. Things seem to be slowing down a little bit. It seems like we're kind of like hitting an asymptote in some ways, and we had this kind of like surge of innovation, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and now it seems like we're kind of reaching some of the limits of it.
Fair enough. All right, back to underrated, overrated. Data mining.
Data mining, underrated. People don't talk about it anywhere near enough. Extracting meaning from your data, that's where the business insights come from, but everyone's like caught up in the machine learning side of it these days. But data mining is still important. No one talks about it anymore.
Spark.
Spark, underrated. I think it's still awesome. If you want to like distribute stuff across a cluster, it's a very easy way to do so, and it has some really cool capabilities, especially with machine learning, that you're not going to find anywhere else.
All except 3.0, which was a little
The 3.0 release, I'm not going to say that's underrated or overrated because no one's really talking about it yet that I can see of. Like there's not been a lot of press around it yet, which is kind of weird.
The Matrix.
The Matrix. Great movie. Yeah. Like, so you mean the movie or the idea?
Well, either.
Okay.
I think I just got it from you. Underrated because you like it.
Absolutely. One of the greatest movies ever.
All right. Ivy League colleges.
Ooh, I'm going to tick some people off with this one. Overrated by far. Absolutely.
Good. I like it when we tick people off of this podcast. That's when I know I'm doing
That's our goal. Yeah.
Online education.
Well, I'm a little bit biased here, but I will say underrated. It does. I can tell you it's growing at a really good clip still. And those Ivy League colleges better watch out.
So would you think when will how do I want to ask this question? I mean, like if I go get an MBA, you recommend an online education, or would you say, hey, no, you better go to a prestigious college?
I would say you need to understand who it is you're trying to get a job from and know what they want to see, right? MBAs in particular are kind of a hot topic because I've worked at companies where having an MBA would do more harm than good on your resume. We'd be like, this guy's an MBA, he's full of it. But in other industries, other companies, they would place a lot of value on that. And in still other companies and industries, they might specifically want MBAs from specific institutions. So, just like everything else, work backwards from your customer. Know who your dream employer wants to see that MBA from, or if they want one at all, and base your decisions on that.
All right. Very, very good. I mean, so a little bit, what about the education piece? You think you get the same online than you can at these universities?
Oh, absolutely. The main thing that the universities offer is the networking piece of it, right? You meet people that, you might do stuff with later on, but the actual ideas and knowledge is, very easily attainable either through online courses or through books or what have you. I mean, I just picked it up, just by surrounding myself with very smart business people at Amazon and, reading the books that they were reading, and I think I got probably 90% of what you get from an MBA just by doing that. All
right. Florida.
Oh, Florida is so underrated. Everyone disses it and talks about Florida, man, all the time. But it's a beautiful climate, very low cost of living. I love it here.
No taxes.
Well, even better. Yep.
All right. This is why I asked you the last one. Newsy hats. You know what this is? This is what you call it, a flat hat?
Yeah. Same thing, I think. Yeah, they're a slight variation. They go by different names. I'm, for my own sake, I'm going to say overrated because I don't want more people wearing them because it's kind of like my trademark thing.
That's fair. All right. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Learned a lot. Obviously, we all need to get to your education, and I think you have a couple of trials, don't you, out there?
Yeah, if you go to my website, you'll see a free trial of a fully featured deep learning class. So I invite you to go to sundog-education.com and give that a whirl. And if you like what you see, go hunt down my other courses and learn even more.
And I presume that class itself emulates what you'll see in the other class. So in other words, if you like that, you'll like the other classes.
Yeah, it's actually a section from one of my larger classes. So it's the real deal.
It's the real deal. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I appreciate it. And what the listeners may not know is I was a little bit late today because I had a timing problem. So I humbly apologize. I fully respect your time, Frank.
It's all good. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. And for the listeners, as always, again, I greatly appreciate it. Please take the time to rate us. And as always, again, if you have any feedback, comments, questions, concerns, any prospects that you'd like to have on the show, please hit almartintalksdata@gmail.com. Until next time, I'll see you on the podcast. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit ibmbigdatahub.com/podcast to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests, and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time,
Let's go.
over and